Welcome to Gunlancer Review's very first video. In this new series of videos I will review different no Monster Hunter titles from the point of view of a Gunlance fanatic, since most of you who watch me are Funlancers. Tonight I played the EXOPRIMAL close beta for a couple of hours. The game is still under development and this is more a first impressions video. EXOPRIMAL is a game that mixed the two genres of shooter multiplayer games in one. Player versus player and player versus environment. This looks a mess at first glance, but luckily it is structured as a way that is easy to understand. Before starting the proper game there is your typical tutorial where they show you the basics of the three core classes. I'm too dumb to remember fancy names, so I will use what they do: the shooter, the medic and the tank. The beta also introduces the armor I will call the scrapper, that is like the shooter but slashing people. People know, dinosaurs. And these are our heroes, if we can call them that. This is basically a hero game without heroes. You instead play as your standard customizable nobody. And this is actually one of the good things of the game. Unlike hero shooters, you are free to change your character mid-game at any moment, since you are basically piloting combat armor. This is also great because the lobby or pre-start screen is quick and fast. The playable game mode is at first a series of dino extermination missions where your team has to clear a number of zones where different sets of dinos will spawn. The type of missions you get is determined by the map you are playing. I observed no variation when I replayed a map, but this could be a pre-release thing. The blunt of most dino culling parts are waves of weak dinos. This is what I consider the major deal-breaking part of this game. For my Monster Hunter fellows, think of a game that is majorly rampage missions. The common enemies pose no danger and are kinda slow and an unfun chore. A mission takes between 10 and 20 minutes depending on what and how many submissions you get, and almost half of them can be considered warm-ups. Still, I will give to the game that makes sense so players can get used to the game instead of being immediately smashed, but I don't see this a good idea in the long run when you have cleared dozens of missions. I can guess that the final game will have different difficulty levels to fix this. The submissions are timed and you could take your good time to clear them. Except for one factor. At the same time you are playing, there is another team doing the same as you. So these boring missions still have a hint of excitement because you are being real-time measured against other guys and there is no time to be idle. You can't interact with them in the part, but like in a Dark Souls game, you can see them as red ghosts so you can get an idea of how they are progressing. Basically the player versus environment is a kind of speedrun mode. Missions get a lot more interesting when the big enemies show up. Triceratops and T-Rex can pop up in submissions and require a ton of damage to down them. I used mainly the tank and it looks like there are mechanics here to stop you from tanking forever, so you must be careful with these monsters. In the tutorial it is said that you can even take control of these bosses to attack the other team and try to delay them. This is a cool idea. The other kind of final submission before the PvP is fighting a horde of 1,000 raptors. In the map we played, it worked as everyone was packing into a choke point and doing our business there. The massacre is surprisingly quick. Once again, the raptors themselves offer no challenge and most of the difficulty comes from dealing from the special types. Once you reach the final phase of a mission we enter into a straight-up player versus player mode. I got to play two kinds of PvP missions. I scuffed at the first kind because it is the goddamn escort the payload from Overwatch. And like with Overwatch, random players can't bother themselves to stay close to it and must go to kill the dinos that spawns to try to destroy the payload. One thing I love about Monster Hunter is that as long as people can keep themselves alive, the mission will not fail, but in this one it is not that way and players need to do what is the objective or lose. But here, people will go ahead, kill all the monsters and you are left with a slow crawl. Nobody ever will get from me any positive review of an escort mission. There is one radical difference in this game over Overwatch, is that there are not attack and defend teams, but instead it is symmetrical and the other team is also trying to escort a payload. When we both are close to completing the objective we will have a clear view of the other team and for the first time we can directly interact with each other. And by interacting I mean to kill each other. This is interesting because members will have to decide between attack, slowing down the other time, or defend so you can progress fast. Of course, the losing team can't afford to just defend because if both move at the same pace, they will lose and so conflict is guaranteed. In case you get killed, Other players can revive you or you have to wait for a variable spawn timer depending on the progress. I can guess the harder you are losing, the faster you spawn to rubber band the mission. And when you win or lose, that is all. Straight to the results page where the game highlights the best thing everyone did. I don't know what kind of progression the final game will have. About the other player versus player mission I got, it was about collecting chips that spawn randomly and more or less works like a team deathmatch. I found that was very effective when the chips spawned to rush the enemy myself with my tank character and let myself get shot and attack while my team was free collecting the chips. It was a pretty clean victory even though I got killed often because this character just can't win against another player, or I suck. That is all about the missions and game structure. Let's talk about how our characters play. This is once again a hero shooter and not a full action game like Monster Hunter. I see this one of the greatest flaws of team-based action games. In real, and let me use wrongly the word real, action games your character feels complete and powerful. Let's take by example a Gunlancer from Monster Hunter. You have actual combo moves with different paths. You can evade as much as you want and never get hit. Guarding recovers fast and there are almost no cooldowns or are seconds short. Your character feels able to attack, defend, move fast and even support if required. Here instead you feel every exo armor has been toned down to only be able to do one thing well, another thing so and nothing more. Take the tank. You have a nice shield and can push enemies back or taunt them, useless in PvP, but only have an evasion move that can be used every few seconds and totally lacks any kind of ranged attack. Basically it is what I call forced teamwork. Yeah, I get this is legit and a lot of people love it, but is not my cup of tea. Especially because when characters are very over-specialized you can find yourself in situations where the character is useless. But I will give it to EXOPRIMAL that they do a good job diminishing this. First, everyone gets the option to use a secondary weapon. There are 3 in the close beta. First is a powerful ranged gun that is great for the tank or the scrap since they lack range. Then, you have a portable healing area that is useful for both yourself and your team. You can use it with the tank to be even more tanky or with other class so the witch doctor doesn't have to babysit them. And finally there is a fast movement weapon I haven't used but looks great. This gives us a glance of customization in a game where so far 2 tanks are exactly the same. And then, the most important thing, you can swap armor mid-fight. This is awesome for how the game works. As said before, the early objectives are piss easy without challenge and you are facing another team who is trying to clear them faster than you. This allows your team to go full scrapper or shooter there, and then when the T-Rex shows its ugly face have someone swap to medic or tank. Of course the flaw of this is that someone in the team must be willing to play those roles. I can see in the future lots of drama about Hanzo mains and how hard it is to find someone who wants to tank. All this review boils down to one point. This game will be 100 times more fun with a group of friends and trusted team with communication. If you got them, this game will be for you no doubt. Still, I have my doubts about the game long time fun. The combat is fine for its genre and the game plan is a lot more well though than Overwatch, but there is one major thing in this beta that bugs me. The enemies are boring without personality. This could be fixed before the game launch and there are more kinds of enemies added and more interesting situations, but one thing that I have learned about Monster Hunter is that the very most important thing in the game is the monster you are fighting. Enemies must have different patterns, tells, phases, special moves, and so to make every single time you fight them a different experience. Every wave also should be a challenge and pose resistance or it will get boring fast. So this is my conclusion. The game base is solid and fun but needs more enemies and make them more interesting. And I hate escort missions. I will try again the game in the next beta in August and will be aware of the changes and additions. Thanks for watching. See you all.